sorry to interrupt you, but Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, speak to the Libyan leader, Muammar Gaddafi?
Yes, well, that's what I said, that it's time to step up the action. And it's time for the international community to create the conditions to use the appropriate fora where decisions can be made about concrete measures to be taken. Now, those are ideally the various forums offered by the various UN bodies, the Security Council, the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council. So, that should be the highest priority, to deliver a very strong message that, it's not just words alone, but words alone can be followed by action.
I want to ask you about the regime, Donatella. Perhaps if you can comment on this. I mean, when a regime panics, from what we see, it becomes extremely dangerous. And I think this is what we're seeing in Libya, because the situation is just escalating with the airstrikes and the killings. How much worse can this get?
It can get a lot worse, and also I think it's important for all concerned to remember that the regime in Libya has had recourse to very dangerous practices against its own people, not just now in what can be defined, by some as a panic situation, but over the past decades there have been extremely serious human rights violations that have been committed, violations of international law committed by the Libyan Authority against its own people, and the international community has done very little to hold the regime accountable for those violations. So the fact that the Libyan regime is capable of extremely serious violations of international law, of human rights, is something that has been established and proven many times over many years. Now, the fact that we're seeing the reaction that we're seeing again, unfortunately, it is not very surprising. Can it get worse? Yes, it can. And that is why it's all the more urgent for the international community to go beyond words of condemnation and to basically signal to the Libyan leadership that it means business, today, and again, that those who are committing violations today in the past few weeks will not get away with it, that they will be held accountable. I think that, that message can make those on the ground who are making the decisions or who are deciding to obey the orders to think about it twice.
All right. Donatella Rivera, thank you for talking to us there out of London. We can now talk to Al Jazeera's Nazanin Moshiri. She's in Tunisia. For her own safety, we can't give her exact location, but Tunisia does border Libya. Naz, what's the reaction out of Tunisia?
Well, the Tunisians are taking what is happening in Libya extremely seriously. We do know that the Foreign Ministry here, as well as the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Defence, have been holding meetings discussing what is going on because, of course, Tunisia borders Libya. Bengadine, which is a town right on the border, is only 200 kilometres from Tripoli. The military here are on a state of high alert. There are 50,000 Tunisians who live in Libya. Many of them have been fleeing the violence, and camps have been set up on the border waiting for them to come across the border. And also, this is a country on a state of high alert, a state of emergency. And there is a lot of concern about the violence and the escalating violence that we're seeing in Libya, and concern about what this means for the Tunisians, because it's very easy for Libyans to come across the border. They don't need a visa. They can come across easily. And there is concern that what is going to happen in the next few days is there will be an influx of Libyans coming across, trying to flee the violence, possibly injured from the violence that we've seen in Tripoli and in towns around the country. And the Tunisian authorities will have to deal with this escalating situation.
And Naz, you were in Tunisia the whole time of the uprising there that we saw. And just give us a sense of the differences, I can say, of the way the military was in Tunisia and what we're seeing now in Libya.
Well, it really was Tunisia and the uprising here and the popular revolution that happened here that really sparked what we saw in Egypt, what we're seeing in Algeria, in Yemen, and now in Libya. So people were very inspired, but it is a different situation here. The military, right from the beginning, refused to fire on the people, and it was a general called General Rashid Amar. He really stood up to Ben Ali's regime and didn't fire on the people when he was ordered to, and it was really that which basically enabled people to uprise against Ben Ali, uprise against the police state. And there are big differences between the military here and the military over in Libya, and I think that is what is the main difference.
All right, Nazanin Moshiri speaking to us there live from Tunisia, bringing us the view. Thank you very much for that. If you're just joining us on Al Jazeera, let me update you on the latest developments coming out of Libya. Violence escalating right across the country. We know that clashes between the country's security forces and anti-government protesters have left hundreds of people dead. But it is difficult to verify all the reports coming out of Libya as communication links are down. But what we know so far is that live rounds have apparently been used against protesters in Libya's capital, Tripoli. And we're getting reports that 250 people have been killed on Monday alone. We've also been getting reports of airstrikes on anti-government demonstrators in Tripoli as well as Zawiya. But Libya's leader, Gaddafi, appears to be losing control of his armed forces. 2 senior Libyan Air Force officers have flown their fighter jets into Malta and they defected. And an update for you as well on Libyan state TV. Now, it's reporting that the military there is bombing Libyan arms depots. That's what Libyan state television is reporting. We'll have much more on Libya after this very short break. Stay with Al Jazeera. It's our continuing coverage on developments coming out of the country.
Hello, we have more tropical problems across Australia. Another tropical cyclone still causing problems just around northern parts of Western Australia. This is Tropical Cyclone Carlos. It has reinvigorating and it is bringing some very heavy rain, flooding rains once again across that northwestern corner of Australia. You come inland and here it's wet enough. We've got some very sharp showers coming all the way down into South Australia, and it's still very disturbed just around Brisbane, southern parts of Queensland, still seeing some very heavy downpours. The dry weather remains into that southeastern corner, nice area of high pressure here, but you can see the showers still feeding up towards Queensland, northern Australia, staying very unsettled. And here goes Carlos. It's sliding its way down towards the far west. By the time we come to the middle part of the week, we'll also see some rather wet weather making its way across New Zealand. But look further north here, we have